And that leads us to this year's Time Person of the Year. It is Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And joining us now to discuss this year's selection, Time Editor-in-Chief Edward Felsenthal. We're going to talk about what this means, but we have to say we had your colleague on the other day, and we gave him a lot of trouble because the short list was so, what's the word? It's hard to find. It was long, first of all, and it's hard to find anybody who really stands to have impact that is truly global compared to Volodymyr Zelensky.
Yes, some years it's a pretty agonizing decision. This year was fairly clear-cut. The rules of the game, the rules of this almost 100-year-old tradition at Time is the person, or sometimes it's a group or an object, who's had the most influence on events in the world over the last 12 months, for good or for ill. And that's Zelensky. We also recognize in our choice the spirit of Ukraine, this incredible wave of support, of volunteerism, of action and courage, both inside the country and out. And we tell some of those stories as well.
There's an amazing excerpt that there's so much good stuff in the interview with him. But we were talking earlier in the show with John Meacham about comparisons between Zelensky and Churchill. And Zelensky says, it's not Churchill for me, it's Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
What did he mean by that?
Well, what Zelensky understands as a former entertainer, is that maybe the most valuable currency in the world is attention. And he has used that to really extraordinary effect. And I think the link with Chaplin is intentional. Chaplin, through World War II, was calling attention to atrocities, to making fun of Hitler, and rallying people in a way that sometimes politicians can't, and we journalists and others in the world can't bring attention to in the same way. And that's what Zelensky's been doing all year. Who would have imagined 9 months ago that we'd be sitting here and he'd even still be around? It's an extraordinary story.
Yeah, and in many ways, if we had rewound, you're right, if we rewound 9 months, you worried that Ukraine would fall to Russia in a matter of days. But if we rewound a year or a year and a half, it'd be hard to imagine a less likely choice than Volodymyr Zelensky, someone who was an entertainer, a comedian, who, came into power, immediately got himself ensnared in a Trump scandal. But we didn't see anything there that anyone saw anything there that would lead us to believe that he could be so brave, so heroic, so inspirational, and really a rallying point for all of democracy.
Yeah, and I spoke actually in this process. We talked to all kinds of people, Meacham and others, former People of the Year, Time 100s, to make the decision. One of the people I spoke with is an opposition party member who said, I didn't vote for Zelensky for all kind of the reasons you mentioned. Seemed not up to the job, but he turns out to be, have this set of skills that's enabled the war to go the direction that it has.
Elise, it's funny you mentioned when we saw him in the Trump scandal. Remember the picture of him with Trump, and you just saw the look on her face like, what the ever living? And I mean, like, what is going on with this guy? You could see that he was like, there was a spark there. And such an example, Elise, to be able to galvanize a people to fight, to die, to freeze, to endure. When we're looking at leadership in this country, pushing back against evil, pushing back against wrong seems very hard for so many leaders in this country.
Well, do you remember in the initial invasion, the aftermath, there was reporting that Zelensky had been offered safe harbor to flee, to get out. He was certainly going to die soon. And he stayed, and he accepted the personal risks that poses to him and his family. And this interview that your correspondent, Simon Schuster, who's been there for 9 months on the ground in Ukraine, it's incredibly moving what Zelensky says, the war and its impact on his own family. Can you talk about his son and how he says his son is growing up in this environment?
Well, his son, who's young, has taken interest in military affairs, and obviously incredibly complex situation for the Zelensky family. I think one of the things that really stood out for me, though, in that interview is that Zelensky tells Simon, the story's not over. Later will be judged, is the exact word. And I think for the reasons, you were just discussing, this is not somebody who's deeply experienced in foreign affairs. The story's still being written, this report we just saw. And I think big question, how can this be brought home? How can Ukraine be liberated in a way that doesn't trigger much deeper disaster, catastrophe?
So you've got the Person of the Year and you have Heroes of the Year, and you chose the women of Iran, which is an extraordinary story that is playing out even as we sit here right now.
Yeah, really, really another story of courage, the contagious nature sometimes of courage, and these incredible women who, this is the most sustained uprising in Iran in more than 40 years, and clearly there's a desire for meaningful change there and a need for it. Among other things, we have Angelina Jolie, who's a correspondent for us, interviews the daughter of a woman who was murdered in the protests, and it'll worth reading. It just will break your heart.
Wow.
I joked about Aaron Judge being Person of the Year. He is your Athlete of the Year. So credit where it's due. You chose him.
Well,
yes.
Really?
Yes, and you guys gave us a hard time about Elon last year, but that was prescient. So was Aaron Judge. We're the reason that he got this new deal with the Yankees.
So will you tell Ben we're sorry? And he'll come back, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We might have been a little tough on him, Willie, I think.
Heilman, really.
I missed it,
Heilman
but I
was
hear
really
bad
bad.
things.
We blame Heilman. We blame Heilman.
Heilman, yeah.
Yeah.
For
Tell
most
him it
things.
was Heilman.
Safe bet.
All right, will do.